Hi, this is Paul, and this is going to be an in-depth guide on how to use my custom scripts for Studio One with the P1-M and V1-M units from iCON. I'm demonstrating here on the P1-M because that's the unit I have. The V1-M works the same way. The only difference is that the display, the bottom two lines are not on the top display, they're on the strip that comes above the faders. And if there are any other differences with the V1-M, I'll explain those as we go along. The first feature we look at is just the shift feature. As you can imagine, when shift mode is engaged, it means that certain buttons and features do other things. There's two ways to activate the shift. You can either hold it down and it comes on, and then you let it go and it goes off, or you can tap it to latch it on, and then you tap it again to get it off. Now, these rotary encoders here, I might be referring to them as VPOTs. That's because the original Mackie control called them VPOTs, stood for virtual potentiometers. But if I say VPOTs, I'm talking about these rotary encoders up the top here. So the main features of the scripts can be accessed using the scenes. You can switch between the scenes by just tapping the button. Each scene means you're controlling different aspects of the DAW, and we'll be going through each scene in great detail later on. There is also this focus mode, so each scene has a normal mode and a focus mode. When it's not focused, every single channel here is connected to a different track in the DAW. So as you can see here, it's got the track names are appearing up here. And when you're in focus mode, however, the surface is only controlling parameters for one track, and that's the selected track. Now you can see which scene you're in by looking at the display on the third line here. It says I'm in track mode, track scene at the moment, and it's focused because it's got square brackets. And then it tells you next there what track you're looking at. In this case, it's the kick track. If I come out of focus mode, then you can see I'm in track mode but unfocused now, and it's because the stars mean unfocused. So now we'll go through the display. We'll start with the third line here because that's always constant no matter what scene you're using. And this is going to be the track number, and also there is a selection indicator, which is the square bracket. So if I select a different track, then the selection marker follows. It also shows you the automation status. So this R means read mode. So if we go to the snare and we put that in touch mode, then we have a T lighting up showing it's in touch mode. Now the top half of the screen, that is all to do with what is connected to the VPOTs. Normally the top line is going to show you what the value is, and the line underneath is going to show you what it's connected to. The exception is for things like the track and pan, because they're all connected to the same thing. So we just display the track name up there. The bottom line sometimes displays the track name when it's not up here. So if I go to the sends here uses the second line to show you what send you're connected to. And so the track names are then displayed on the bottom here. And the pan indicators just show the value that's connected to the VPOTs. Now you'll see that the scene information here is taking over the third row, so that you can't see the track number or the automation status on channel 8. And sometimes the scene information also goes on to track 7, so that's 2 channels you won't be able to see. So in order to take the scene information off, you can press the info button here, and it goes back to showing the track numbers and automation status. And so you can toggle that on and off whenever you like, or if you want, you can leave it off, and anytime you want to see the info, you can just hold the info button down, and then when you take your finger off it, goes away again. So the select buttons, whatever scene you're in, they're always connected to the track selection. So you can always jump to a different track whenever you like. And this also goes in the focus mode as well. So if I'm in the track mode and I go into the focus mode, here we're looking at the hi-hat track, and you can see there's the track focus mode in, and we're looking at hi-hat. But if I want to say, look at the kick drum here, then I can just press select. And now everything here is connected to the kick drum. Now, when you're selecting tracks on the iCON device, the console on the DAW will follow along with you. So we're on the left-hand side of this console here, and there's a lot more to the right here. So if I bank on the console and we go over to, say, the Hydrome one here, then if I select that track, it's going to move the DAW console to that track. And there we can see the Hydrome is there. It also works the other way around. If we come back and I select this overheads, if I want the selected track now to be brought onto the iCON surface, then I just press this locate button here, and it jumps back to the correct bank containing the selected track, and there's the overhead. The loop function is fairly self-explanatory. You can turn it on and off as expected. However, you can set the start and end markers on the iCON console. So if we want to start at bar 13, all we need to do is press Shift, and then you use the left arrow to set the start and the right arrow to set the end. So there's my start, and let's end it at 17, and then take off the shift mode, and now we've got a new selection. If we engage the markers mode, this allows us to place markers by scrolling to where we want to go. And then to place a marker, you can either press record, or you can click the jog wheel. And then to move between markers, you press the arrow buttons here, left and right, to move back and forwards between the markers. And then when you're done with that, don't forget to take marker mode off. Now on the P1-M, the master fader can be toggled using the master button down here, and fader 8 becomes the master channel. And if we start playing, this meter here is now connected to the output of the master bus. Now on the V1-M, you've got dedicated master channel, and you also have a stereo master meter, which will also work, and it will show the independent left and right levels. Now, anytime the master bus clips, these blue lights here near the jog wheel are going to turn red. That's the overshoot indicator. So if I push the master bus up till it clips, you can see it goes red. And then if I want to clear it, I can just clear it normally on the DAW and it will go back. Now the metering has been reworked from the Mackie scripts. So if we go and have a look at that on the written documentation, the full meter mode is the default. And as you can see, anything above 0 dB is going to light the clip light. And then minus 12 dB is at the top of the green segments here. If you prefer, you can switch it in the user settings to the what I call the green meter mode, where 0 dB is now at the top of this green segment. And then you've got plus 8 dB of headroom up into the yellow segments. And then anything over 8 dB is going to light the overload light. So it depends on how you like to gain stage your projects, which one you prefer. Now, the other thing the meters can do is show gain reduction. And when they're in gain reduction mode, you can see the scale here. It's mainly 1 dB up to minus 6 dB of gain reduction. And then you can see how it progresses. And then finally, up the top there would be minus 48 dB. So to show the gain reduction, you have to press the flip button. That puts the meters into gain reduction mode. This kick here has a gate on it, so you can see the gate opening and closing. This bass DI track has a compressor, and you can see it's doing roughly 3 to 4 dB, or sometimes 2 dB of compression. Next, we're going to look at track filters, and what that allows you to do is limit what channels are shown up here on the actual console. So if I only want, for example, bus channels, I can hit bus, and now I'm only seeing bus channels on the console. Similarly with VCAs, there's my VCAs. Most of them are self-explanatory. Now, if you want to clear the filter, you can either move to a different filter or just click the one you're on and it clears it, turns all the filtering off, and you're back on seeing everything that's visible in the normal DAW console. If you hide a channel from the DAW console, it would also be hidden on the iCON console. Now, there's two special filters that need further explanation. The first is this remote bank here. So the remote bank is a user configurable bank that you can set up any channels that you want to be in it. To activate it, you have to press this little icon here, Edit Remote Bank, until it goes yellow. And then you can just set about hiding and showing whichever channels you like using the channel picker here. So let's say you want the remote bank to be keyboards and synthesizers. Okay, so anything to do with that. So I'm going to hide all of the rest of them. Whoops, no, we want this B12 in here. Okay, so there we go. That's my remote bank that I've set up. Now I can toggle that on and off using this button here. Now to use it on the iCON console, you just have to press the remote bank, and you don't need the remote bank active in Studio One. That's just for setting it up. So you can turn that off once you've set it up. Then you press remote and you get on the console just those channels that you selected. So we can bank over a little bit here. So we've only got a few channels there. And then we can clear that and go back to all of the channels. And the other one that needs explanation is the spill filter. So if you activate the spill filter when you have a VCA, a FX channel, or a bus selected, it will automatically filter down to only that bus, VCA, and FX channel, plus anything that's feeding it. So to demonstrate the buses, the easiest way to do this is to select bus filter first. Let's have a look at this main room bus. Select that one and then press spill. And now I can see that bus plus anything that's feeding into it. And these have all obviously all got sends into that main room bus. So now I can change the level of the normal bus, or I can change individual levels of what's feeding into there. Same thing with the VCAs. Let's go for the keys VCA. If I spill that, then I get all of the tracks that are being controlled by the keys VCA. And if I bank over at the end of it, it's going to actually show the actual VCA itself. So you can see I can do an internal mix for that, or I can affect all of the channels by moving the actual VCA. So now we're going to take a look at the track scene, and we'll start with the unfocused mode. Because we're not in the focus mode, each channel strip is connected to a different track in the DAW. So I'll start with the display. The display at the top row is showing you the input gain of the channel. The second row is showing you the channel name. The third is, as normal, the track number and the automation status. And the fourth row is showing you the track volume or the fader position. So the rotary encoders are connected to the input gain of the channel, as you can see if I move them. And the press is connected to the polarity, so you can invert the polarity. 1 is inverted, 0 is normal. The rest of the console does exactly what you would expect. So the fader is connected to the track volume, and the solo and mute and solo the track. Select button selects the track, and the record button arms the track for recording. Now, if you have shift engaged, then the record button becomes the monitor button. So you can select the monitor on independently of the record. Now, another thing that happens when you have the shift mode engaged is that the V-prop presses will reset the rotary encoders to their default value. So this hi-hat here, if I press it while shift is engaged, then it's going to reset the input gain to 0 dB. And similarly with the fader, if you tap the fader with shift mode on, it resets it to 0. So now we'll look at the track focus mode. So if I engage focus mode, now we're looking at this snare drum. So the entire surface is now controlling only the snare drum track. Each rotary encoder does something different in this one, and you can see what it does by the second row. That tells you what function you're looking at. So this V-pot here is the input gain. This is the phase. Flip it on or off. The pan, etc. You can also use your routing here. So I can select the input channel. So that's from my interface, the right channel, left channel. I could also input from other buses. Similarly, the output, you can route the output to, in this case, I'm routing to the drums bus because this is the snare track, but I could go to the acoustic bass or guitar buses or my main print bus. If you have VCA channels set up, you can choose which VCA fader is controlling them. And if you want to clear that, you can just press Shift and then press, and it clears the VCA. So we'll put that back to drums. And the last two, this one bypasses any sends on the channel. If you have sends, you can see there it bypasses and unbypasses. And similarly with the inserts, bypass all the inserts on that channel and unbypass. So when you're in the focus mode, the first channel here is connected to whatever channel is you're focused on. So this will do the normal volume of the snare, and this will solo mute the snare and put it into record mode. The metering, however, is slightly different. If we run it and get some metering up, we'll just switch over to the kick. And then you can see we've got 3 meters active here. So the first meter is the left channel, the second meter is the right channel, and the third meter is the gain reduction. So now we're looking at the pan mode, and this is the unfocused mode. Now everything here is the same as the track mode, except that the rotary encoders are connected to the panning. And you can see the pan position shown on the top row. So we're now going to look at the pan focus mode. So we're currently focused in on a high drone synth, and there's only 2 controls you can use on this, and one is the normal panning, and the second is the type of panning, which you can change by clicking. You can put it into dual left and right panning or binaural, and then goes back to simple again. So we're now going to have a look at the send mode. Again, we're unfocused to start with, and every strip here is connected to a different track in the DAW. You can see we're starting at track 25 here. Now you can see the display is saying that we are in the send mode, unfocused, and you can see here that it says 1 of 3. What that means is that there are a total of 3 slots that have been used in the project, so total of 3 send slots have been used, and we are looking currently at the first send slot. So if we can match that up with the console here, we've got, starting at track 25, we've got the main room, which is there, and then the next one, the first slot is the plate, and then this backing vox, the first slot is the delay. Now to get down to the next one, we just press send again. Now we're on to line 2. You can see we've got delay and main room here. The high drone hasn't got anything in this slot, so it's just blank. And then we can carry on going down to line 3, and then press it again, and we're back up to line 1. So the display is showing you which particular send that you're connected to at the moment on this channel strip. And the channel strip is connecting the send now, not the channel. So the display here shows you the send level, and the send level is controlled by the fader. Now, normally the panning that's used for the send is the same as the panning on the channel. However, it is possible to do a different pan, and you can change the pan using the rotary encoders here. However, you have to unlock it first. So if I try and change it, it'll tell me it's locked. And the pan lock is the record button in this mode. So you can see it's lit, so it means it's locked. So if I want to change the panning independently from the channel panning, then I have to press the record button to unlock it, and now I can pan that in a different way. If I want to relock it so I can revert to using the panning on the channel, I can just press the record button again and it tells me it's locked again. The solo button is the pre-fader, post-fader indicator. So we're looking at the room one now. It's lit now, so I know that this is a pre-fader send. And if I change it, it goes back to post-fader. Mute will mute that send, so it will prevent anything being sent out to the main room in this case. And the select button is as normal, it selects whatever channel is at the bottom here. So it's also possible to reroute the sends to a different bus. To do that, you need to put the send into routing mode by clicking on the VPOT, and then you can see it comes up route there. And now you can change the send destination by rotating the VPOT. So you can choose one of your other buses here or effects channels. And then when you've settled on the one you want, you can just press the VPOT again, and that takes it out of routing mode and you're back to normal. So we're now going to look at the focus mode. So we're going to stick with this ARP3. As you can see, this has the full 3 slots used. So when I press this into focus mode, now what happens is we're just looking at the ARP3 channel, and all of these are now connected to the ARP3 channel, and you get all 3 send slots being shown there. So now I can quickly adjust the level of all of the sends on this channel. And all of these other buttons are exactly the same as when you're unfocused, so post-fader, pre-fader, etc. And because it's the focus channel, the metering is the same, left channel, right channel, and gain reduction. We're now going to look at the Q-mix scene. Again, we're going to start on focus, so each strip is connected to a different channel. And like the send scene, the display shows you which particular Q-mix you're going to be controlling. And above that, it tells you what the level is being sent out to that Q-mix. And here beside the Q-mix indicator, it's telling you that we're in slot 1 of 2 slots. So we have 2 Q-mixes set up on this project, and we're looking at the first one at the moment, and this one goes to Mary the Singer. If we press Q again, it now goes to the second Q-mix, which is the band's Q-mix. And then press it again, it goes back up to the first one. So the Q-mixes are fairly similar to the sends. Each strip now is controlling the output of the Q-mix, not the channel anymore. The level is the level being sent to the Q-mix. So you can quickly balance all of the channels for this particular Q-mix. Now, normally the level being sent to the Q-mix is going to be the same as the normal channel volume. However, you can override it, and you override it just by moving the fader. If you want to revert to having it locked to the channel volume, you can press the solo button, and that will move it back to using the channel volume. The VPOTs here control the panning. Now, normally the panning is set to follow whatever panning is set up on the channel, and the record button here is the pan lock indicator. If I try and change the panning while it's locked, so this one is locked, then I get the locked message. To change this panning to be independent from the channel panning, I can unlock it first, and now I can change it to whatever I like. And if you want to go back to it being locked to whatever's on the channel, you can just press the record button again. So that's the 2 lock buttons, the record and the solo button. The mute does exactly what you would expect. It mutes this channel in that Q-mix. And the select button does the normal channel selection on the console. So now we'll go to the focus mode of the Q-mix. So we'll select this ARP and we'll focus it. And now the console is only controlling this ARP3 channel, and it's looking at the Q-mixes. And so you'll see all of the Q-mixes you have available. I've just got the 2 here, and now I can change the volumes of the sends for each of these. These other buttons do exactly the same as when it's not focused. So for example, I can relock the level to follow the channel. And because it's the focus mode, the metering we've got is the left channel, the right channel, and any gain reduction that might be happening on the channel. So we're now going to look at the macros scene. So I have some macros set up on this ARP3 channel. I'm going to open up the channel editor and just go to the macros tab. Now you don't need this tab open to control the macros from the icon surface. I'm just showing you what it is we're actually controlling here. So there are always 8 sets of macro controls on each channel. So on the surface, you'll always see a count of 8. We're looking at the first macro currently, which is this one here. It's the drive and the bypass. So they come in these pairs of rotary encoder and push button. So this is controlling the drive on a couple of these plugins, and this is bypassing both of those plugins. And this mix is connected to the mix of the red light distortion. So as I say, we don't need this open to control it. So I'm going to close that down, and then we'll focus back onto the icon controller. Just the same as the sends and the cues, if you keep pressing the macro scene button, it advances through the different slots. So this is our first macro on this ARP3 channel, and then I press it again. This is our second one, which was the mix. And then you can keep going and get back to 1. So on the display, the top line shows you what the rotary part of the macro is connected to, and that's obviously connected by the rotary encoder. The second line shows you what the push is connected to, and this was our bypass. And the rest of the strip is connected to the track controls, so mute, solo, and track volume, etc. So we'll now look at the focus mode of the macro, and now we're just looking at this single channel, which is the ARP3 channel, and all of these controls are now connected to that single track. So we're seeing all of the macros for that track. So here's our 2 macros there, and they can be controlled independently with the VPOTs. As usual with the focus scenes, channel strip 1 here is connected to the track controls, so volume, mute, solo, etc. And the metering will show you left channel, right channel, and gain reduction. So now we're going to look at the plugin scene. So because there's more than one plugin slot, we can see here which particular slot we're looking at. There's a total of 3 slots that have been used in this song, and we're looking at slot number 1. So these are all the plugins in slot 1 for each of these channels. The main channel controls are connected to the track volume and mute and solo, etc. On the display, it tells you, the second line tells you what particular plugin is inserted into that slot. And the top line shows you whether that particular plugin is bypassed or not. So 0 is not bypassed and 1 is. To bypass it, you twist the rotary encoder to the right. That's bypassed, and then left is unbypassed. Now, if you push the rotary encoder, the particular plugin that's inserted will be opened in Studio One. So there's the gate plugin opened. And what's happened now is that the icon surface has been put into plugin control mode. So we're no longer controlling the tracks. We're only now controlling this particular plugin that's been opened. Now, as you can see, I've already mapped a few parameters to the control surface. So I've got open threshold on this rotary encoder, for example, and attack time on this. And in a later chapter, we're going to go through how this plugin control system works and how to map your parameters onto the control surface. So we'll now look at the plugin focused mode. And as you would expect, we're just looking at the one track now, the kick track here, and we're looking at all of the plugins inserted onto this track. And there are just 2 here, and it does exactly the same thing as when you're in focus mode. You can bypass the plugins, or you can open up the plugin, and it goes into plugin control mode. The instrument scene is going to show you any tracks which have a virtual instrument inserted onto them. I've only got one in this project. It's the Hydrone track, and it's got a MyTi virtual instrument inserted on it. So unlike the sends and the plugins, there's no slot counters because you can only have one instrument inserted. So it just shows you that you're in the instrument scene. And the only thing that you can do with this one is just open up the virtual instrument by clicking the VPOT. And we're back now into this plugin control mode. So you can not only control plugins, but also virtual instruments. And that's coming up in a later chapter of just how to map these and how to use them. There is a focus mode of the instrument. So if we make sure we've got the MITI track selected here and we press focus, then it's just going to be dealing with this particular track. Now, of course, in the focus mode, you're only ever going to see one instrument inserted here because you can only have one instrument per track. So we're now going to look at the plugin control mode in depth. So we're going to open a plugin first by we're in the plugin scene here, and we're going to open this gate plugin on the kick track. As you can see on the screen, the gate has been opened and the control surface is now controlling that plugin. We'll start with the screen. The top row here shows you what controls are mapped to the individual VPOT rotations. So I've got the open threshold here, and this one's got the release time. And as you can see, when you change the value, it puts the value up there momentarily so you can see what you're changing it to. The second row shows you what's connected to the faders. In this case, I've just got the range on this fader here. And then the third row shows you what is connected to the select buttons. So I've got this one here is the look ahead. So I can turn the look ahead on and off, and you'll notice that the select button lights and unlights depending on the status of this look ahead. And that's second one here is mapped to the sidechain filter. So I can turn that on and off. The meters are set up like the focus mode. So you've got the left level, the right level, and the gain reduction. On channel strip 1, the solo button will solo the track you're currently working on, and mute will mute the track you're working on. And the record button is linked to the plugin bypass. So if you press that, that's my gate is now bypassed, and you can unbypass it with pressing it again. So you can do A/B comparisons quite easily. Now, the rotary encoder presses are not connected to the plugin, but they perform the functions that are listed on the bottom fourth row here. So I'll go through the fourth row. The first one is just the channel name. The third one shows you which plugin you're currently controlling. In this case, it's the gate. Now, if you have other plugins on this channel, then you will be able to step through them using these two buttons either side. And you can see that I can go forward here. So if I press that, I'm now controlling the Pro EQ. And then if I want to go back to the gate, I can use this backwards button and I'm back to the gate. This cell here is showing you what page you're on. So it's possible to map all of the rotary encoders, all of the faders, and all of the select buttons. So that gives you 24 controls. However, you also have 8 pages. So if you step through the page, so I go to the next page now, you'll notice all my mappings disappear because now I'm free to map all of these to other controls on the plugin. So you've got 8 pages there. So 24 controls per page, that's 192 total controls that you can map to each plugin. And finally, pressing the last VPOT will close the plugin and return you back to the plugin scene. Now, if you don't want to manually map all of the controls, then there is an auto map feature. And if you just press this auto map here, then you can see this is no longer saying page, it's now saying auto to show that you're in the auto map. For plugins which have lots and lots of controls like channel strips, it's much more useful to spend the time doing a manual mapping so that you can map things in a logical place that makes sense to you. Now, if I take the auto map off now, it returns to my manual mapping. So you can switch freely between the auto mapping and your manual mapping, and you don't lose your manual mapping. So now we're going to look at how to actually do these mappings. I'm going to demonstrate on this gate plugin, which I've now cleared. So it's blank. So there's 2 main categories of parameters. There's the sort of continuous values like thresholds, frequencies, gains, etc. And they're best to put on the faders and the rotary encoders. And the other type are on-off toggles and categories where you sort of step through a set number of values, and they're best for the select buttons, and you can also put them on the rotary encoders if you want. If you put like an on-off button on the rotary encoder, then it's just right turn to turn it on and left turn to turn it off. So to prepare for mapping, the first thing you do is press this little cog button here, and it opens the mapping window. And also just make sure that this is set to your actual device, so P1-M or V1-M. You can drop the list down and change it if you want to. Now, if you open the plugin from the control surface, that will automatically be set for you. But just keep an eye on it, because if the mapping doesn't work, you might be trying to map a different unit. So the mapping procedure is pretty simple and quick. So the first thing we're going to map is the threshold here, and I'm going to map that to this rotary encoder, this first one here. So I'm going to just move the rotary encoder, and you can see up here it tells you what the last control you've touched is. So I've got V1 there, so it's on channel 1, and stroke 1 means page 1, so I'm on page 1 here. So if I move V2, you can see I'm on 2 there. So I'm going to map V1. You then just move the control you want to control, and that appears on this left-hand side here. And then to connect them, you just press this little arrow here, and it goes yellow. And then on the control surface, you can see the parameter name has appeared, open threshold. So we can also do a few others. So we'll put this one here, I'll move that one, move the attack, and link it up. So now the attack is controlling from here. Hold and release. It doesn't matter if you move the surface or the plugin first, as long as you move them both and they're both up here, then you can just connect them. So we'll put the range here. I'm going to connect to the fader, this fader here. So you can see fader 1, I've just moved, connecting to range. So that's now connecting the range. And we'll put the look ahead on this select button. So click the look ahead, press the select button and connect. So now that's turning the look ahead on and off. And the next one we'll do with the sidechain filter on this button. So you can see it's fairly quick. Once you get the hang of it, you can get into the flow. And just to reiterate, these 3 buttons here are connected to the mute of the current track you're working on. So this is the kick track, so that will mute the kick. That will solo the current track you're working on. And the record button here will bypass the current plugin, in this case the gate. So you don't need to map the bypass, it's already done for you.